All right, guys. Thanks for jumping on Warriors podcast. This is our leadership edition, if you will. And so today I'm actually in the Charlotte office, and I'm sitting down with my man, Mike Curry. Say hi, Mike.
What's up, everybody?
Good. And it's kind of weird because I got somebody in here doing this thing. You know, I'm used to pushing buttons. Is it on him or me? You know, this is funny. So I'm just being real about these podcasts. But at the end of the day, you know, I think we would just want to bring value any way we can. So, you know, I guess, Mike, let me start here. Like, when you think of leadership, and this is maybe a deep question, I don't know. What do you think that means in our business?
Yeah, I think it means someone that's doing rather than saying, right? So it's actionable. I think leadership is an action word. It's, you know, whether it's telling someone to dial or making the dials with them. I think leadership is just an actionable word, and leading by example and actually doing what you are asking others to do rather than telling them that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, you know, again, when it comes to our business, I think for me, which I said this earlier, we were doing a Zoom or something earlier, I think that is the best way. You know, that's how we did it, because that's why when I asked Sean and Andrew, it's like, okay, lead from the front. What does that look like? Protect 30, 40 families, you know, all those things. So, and then it's being able to have that Hall of Fame jacket, which you have in my mind. Does it mean you have to hire a Hall of Fame? No, but it's kind of cool because now I can say to anybody that comes this way, right, I did that, right? Here's how I did it, and show them. And you're doing that, and you're continuing to do that. And now you've got a few that are going to do that this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to make you feel better, right?
Yeah,
like
that's the best part.
Yeah. It's like being a proud dad almost, right? Yeah,
Yep.
Kind of cool. Cool. So leading from the front, lead by example, those type of things, right? And then, you know, I think, again, showing action. And I think, you know, not only are we leading by action, but also how we care for people, how we treat people. That's important, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, doing that thing. So, all right. So what are some things that you've learned in a, you know, pretty short period of time? You've been here a little over a year, maybe pushing a year and a half, something like, if that, and, you know, came from refrigeration business, that kind of thing. What have you learned about the insurance business from a leadership standpoint, or, you know, things that you've transitioned recently, right? Your business is growing. You know, VP really about an SPP level, you know, volume wise, you're just, you know, it's kind of there. We talked about this earlier, but what are some things that maybe you're changing or learning that can help other people also go to those levels and beyond?
Yeah, no, thanks. You know, I think some things that I've really learned lately is, and I, you know, I always like to give credit. When I hear things, I don't, you know, I like to give credit to the people that said them. But Trey Honeycutt had a podcast or a post recently, and Trey's somebody that I actually don't know very well, but I respect him immensely, and, you know, as a trainer. But he said he fell into this area of business management versus being that business leader. And that really spoke to me, because as you start to transition from learning to sell insurance, you transition into learning how to teach people to sell insurance. And in that middle ground there, in that process, you find yourself pulling back on the things that you know that you need to do daily, if you don't catch yourself, and if you aren't, you know, you don't have a self-awareness of it. And that's something that I really had to do a lot of self-reflecting over the last, I've actually been here about a year and a half now, but over the last 3-4 months, is like, how did I allow myself, not intentionally, but how did I allow myself to fall into that business management role? So I've really been intentional about leading from the front, selling, while also encouraging but teaching other guys to do the same. You know, so, you know, the management role part of it, it's like you want to be involved in everyone's business because you do care about them and you want them to grow. But sometimes being involved like that is actually hindering them. You know, it's kind of like your kids. Like, you have to let them fall down, you know, get bumps and bruises, and, you know, tell them to go ride their bike without a helmet and fall over, and it's okay, right? Mm-hmm. And then they learn how to ride a bike. So it's easy to want to, you know, hold the bike for them and wait till they're perfectly ready. And it's like, you know, if you just go and you just, you know, move fast, break things, like Sean says all the time, people tend to follow that, right? And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned as far as the self-reflection and being a business leader rather than a business manager.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I think we can micromanage. I know a lot of companies try to do that. I don't think we do that. I mean, I think that we try to, at least I think it's just driving them to the platforms, right? Driving them to the training, asking them to get on calls. At the end of the day, we own our own businesses, and we need to be adults. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm here in the office with you, and what do you think? Because I see something special, like when I come to the Charlotte office with Mike and his team. What are some things that you guys have done that you think creates that camaraderie that you have, and then you have right behind you 3 or 4 or 5 guys that are producing 30, 40 families a month, just like you are.
Right. Well, what do they say? Like the people that you spend your most time around, you become like. So if I'm in the office, if Brody's in the office, Joseph does, I don't want to leave anybody, Robbie, everybody.
Right.
Like if we're all in the office together and we're working, like if you're not working, you're left out. Like, so it's like, it kind of forces people to become that. Right. So, even though I think this is probably the biggest thing, even though we are in the office, we all are on our Zoom on live dials. And we're plugged in. We're plugged in with the people that aren't in our specific office. They may be in a different office, might even be working from home. But I think that there's power in numbers. And when you come together, Brody's good at things that I'm not good at, right? Joseph's good at things that I'm not good at. Robbie's good at things. We're all good at different things. And I think when you come together, you get better in all your weaknesses in all your areas. And I think when you set the standard, right, 10 families a week, 30 families a month, we're on Zoom, we do these things daily, I think it just becomes habitual. And I don't know the exact quote. I'm probably going to be butchering it, but, it's something along the lines. It takes like 21 days to create a habit, or 21 days to create consistency and 90 days to create a habit. You guys probably know the quote, look it up. But the point is, like, when you consistently do something every single day, like, it becomes the norm, it becomes your life. And I think the guys here, at least within the Charlotte office, like, we eat, sleep, breathe FFL. And I don't know about you guys, but when we look at our leaderboard each week, it's the guys that are here and on live dials that are at the top every single week. Like, I don't think there's a secret. And I think it comes back to plug it in. And, you do have to let people choose that. Like, give them the links, give them the access, be there for them, and it's up to them to choose that. So we all choose our success here.
Right. And so, like, example would be like Grady has a call. You're probably on it.
Right.
Right. If anything else, just because there's information there, right? Grady's an integrity partner. I mean, why wouldn't you get on and listen, right? I mean, it just all makes sense. Why would we have a call if it doesn't make? I mean, he's not doing it because for his health, right? He's doing it so he can add value to you. We have Andrew's call. We do a sales manager call. We don't miss those, right? So I think that's important. You mentioned the Zoom. I feel the same way when dialing in the field. I mean, to this day, I still probably 9 out of 10 times I'm on our Zoom dials, which is kind of weird at this. But I mean, I'm just saying I like to be engaged. I like to let them know, hey, I'm still here with you, whether I was dialing, whether I wasn't dialing. I think there's power in that. I was telling one of my guys this earlier. Think about this. I think there's also that accountability that really helps that person. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like I didn't care honestly, I didn't care if they were dialing. I didn't care how many. I mean, I'm just saying it wasn't about that. It was for me, because I was on another dial team before we had a dial team. Yeah. It was accountability for me. Like, I knew that there's going to be other people watching. I was there, and something about that, not that I had to have that, but some people need that. And for me, it was motivational. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you this, and this is something early on, and obviously, this is a leadership call, but when I was first brand new, and I worked with Jamie Cheerio, and he would be on the dial team, and at that time it was FFL America. We weren't as big as we are now, but I found myself, and this is God's honest truth, if he had his camera off, mine was off. If he had his on, mine was on. Every time he had his camera on, mine was on. And, thankfully, Jamie dialed all day long. But until I developed those habits and growth of I'm now self-responsible for my business, I relied on his efforts until I got up to speed on mine. And I didn't choose it to be like that. But looking back now on the opposite side of it, with agents and training agents, I'm like, it's a psychology thing, right? Like, because, he's on the West Coast, didn't hop on, until 10 or 11, whatever time it was, his time. But, I found that to be, like, very interesting. right? So it's like if I'm not, that's probably why your Zoom's load. I mean, I don't know how many you guys are full all the time, right? And it's because I think a lot of it you're on, a lot of leaders are on, right? And like that speaks volumes. I remember one night, and I'll say this real quick, on the FFL America call. I remember, and again, I was probably 2-3 months into this business, right? So guys like Julius, who else was it? Clay Sweet. And this is back then. We have a lot of leaders now.
Right.
Julius, Clay Sweet, there's many others. But I remember they hopped on the dial team that evening. It was loaded. They were dialing live. And it's like all the new people, right? Or just people that were trying to get to that point were on there. And it was still to this day probably the best dial session I've ever been a part of. And it's like, I guess, and I'm humble and I don't know that I've ever, I'm at that point yet. But like, I never want to be in a position where it's like they say it all the time, you might not need the call, but the call might need you. And I think that's the big thing about live dials. And I think as much as the importance of it being on when you're new and trying to figure this business out, I think there comes a point when it's like you start to figure it out and then you want to pull out of things, right? Because you don't need it as much. The training, it's the same stuff, right? Dial, book 30 a point, right? But there's somebody that needs you that's on that call. And that's the power of it, man. Like, think about getting to that point in this business. Like, we all want to become successful, right? You work really hard to get to that point, and now you have the opportunity to get back, and what do? You pull out. And it's like, think about the people that were there for you, right? You had people there for you. Why can't you be there for someone else? And that's something I've never, and again, I'm not that guy yet or at that level, but I know for me as I grow, that's my constant focus is, with kids, having my two kids, Mason and Haley. It's like I can tell them a million things, but it's what I show them that matters.
100%.
And they watch me, right? I can tell them I love them or I can show them that I love them. And it's the same thing with this business. You have to show people, and being on live dials is, that's just one little minute way of being there for people. But I can tell you, like, if you have a team, you got to be there. Like, you got to be present. It's being present that matters the most. And those moments when you're on the Zoom, somebody might be having a rough dial day, and man, Dave's on there to say, "Hey, dude, I've been there. It happens, right? Like, let's work on this." You're kind of a little, on the very beginning, you're a little too nice. You kind of sound salesy. Kind of back it down a little bit. Keep your tone a little lower. Sound a little bit more pissed off. I don't know if I'm supposed to say pissed, but sound a little bit more mad. And maybe people won't catch you as salesy, right? And you start to change your pitch a little bit and a little tonality, and now you're starting to book appointments. Like, it's little stuff like that. That's all this business is. It's getting good at the little stuff, And I saw Alex Hormozy, and I'll throw this back to you. I keep rambling, but Alex Hormozy said on a podcast one time, and if you don't know who he is, look him up on YouTube. But he said the advanced people or the highly successful people, they don't do anything different. They do the basics at a higher level than you, right? So we come into this business and we learn the basics, and then we try to and I'm guilty, right? We try to find, what's this? It's got to be something. Dave's got to be doing something that I'm not doing, and that's why he's growing faster than me. He's just doing the basics more. You're just multiplying it, right? It's the same thing with dialing. You're making 100 dials. I'm making 200. Who's going to book more appointments? It's me. Naturally. You could be 10 times better than me, but if I make 200 dials and you make 100, most likely, 99% of the time, I'm booking more appointments, right? Nobody knows how many recruiting calls you're making on a daily. Nobody knows the trips to Fayetteville to set with new agents, right? When you don't really need to, right? Let's be real. And it's doing those things that people don't see, and it's the time under tension, the workout analogy, right? That's where your growth happens. That's where you're breaking it down, you're growing it back. And I don't know, there's so many things I could talk about, but this business is literally just about being there for people and continuing to do the same thing, but just at a higher level as you get better.
Yeah, that's really good. It was funny. I was listening to Ed or Andy. I think it was Ed Milet. He was talking about he had this trainer on, and he was talking about Kobe. I think you might have heard. I don't know, but Kobe was working. His workout started at 4 a.m, and the guy showed up, and he shows up. I'm not going to be late for Kobe. He shows up at 3:45, but Kobe was there at 3:30, and he's like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm just getting ready. I'm getting ready for my workout, like at 4. Yeah. Like I come here and he's doing the basics, but I heard Priscilla, I think it was him said that, or Ed Millett might be in that book actually, is talk about doing the mundane things over and over again. You know, that's what makes you great at something. Yeah. And Kobe was sitting there dribbling, sitting there. He wasn't shooting. You know, I remember and I played point guard in high school. I remember just carrying a basketball with me, and it was just around my back, here, there. It wasn't my sport. It was like I was going to get better at it, and the only way I could get better at it was to outwork other people. And my goal was to start at some point, I was little, right. Which I did. But my point is, it's not about me, but I'm saying in this business, it's the same thing. It's the repetition of mundane things that you don't want to do. Maybe it's dial the phone. Maybe it's make a phone call. Maybe it's sit with a new agent, which, we're all trying to get better at that. It's work. Like, it's literally work. It's work in the terms of what other people think. But if it's a joy in your heart and it's a service thing, it's not really work. It's just something you do, right? And you do it over and over again. And you said that. Like, one thing I know is I can outwork somebody. And hopefully through that hard work, I get better. Just like you, Mike will be better a year from now than some people that started the same time because of the amount of effort you put in and the amount of repetition. You can't help but get better at it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're watching this as a leader, again, Mike said something about keeping your screen on. That seems like such a simple thing, but I was on Andrew's call one day and I was, again, I think I've maybe missed a couple, like maybe it didn't matter. There were some times where I was literally on a plane, could get on for whatever reason, or I was somewhere I just couldn't get on. I remember one time Sean was on and he's like, Whichard, why is your camera not on? And I literally turned it on. I don't remember where I was, but there was a reason. It was like, but that's the point. Like, why would you get on a Zoom and not have your camera on? It's kind of weird. Now, there are certain occasions where maybe you're, like I said, you're traveling. It's just there's too much going on around you, whatever the case may be, and you may be listening. I get that part. But 99% of the time, 95% of the time, you should have your camera on, right?
Right.
And I don't understand, because I like to look at people's faces, man. I want to see what I'm dealing with and the emotion and things like that. So that's huge. So I think it's just sometimes the little things that mean so much as a leader as anything else. But why do you think people in this business as a whole overthink stuff? Like, they overthink, maybe it's a dial day, maybe it's the Zoom, maybe it's, running the appointments, whatever it might be. Why do you think people overthink just in general?
Yeah, I don't know about in general, but I think I have it solved in this business, that people do whatever they can to make it hard. Like, it can't be this simple, right? Like, it can't be as simple as picking up your phone, like buying leads, right? Investing in leads, picking up your phone and dialing them. Like, it can't be that simple, right? Here's a script, say the script. As you get used to the script, put it in your own words, right? Here's how you recruit, right? Whatever, however you do that, right? Call them up and get them. Like, I think it all comes down to the simplicity of the business. Like, people, there's some kind of ego behind making something more. I don't think it's intentional, but you have to make something more complicated, right? There's nobody, in my mind, in my personal professional opinion, after doing this business, there's nobody in my mind that I don't believe can get a cell phone, call people who filled out a request for insurance, book an appointment, right? Call them up, figure out what they need with our system that we already have in place. Like, how can you not, like, you can do that. And then over time you get better, right? But, like, who can't do that? Anybody can do that, right? Yep. Not everybody can go do like Joseph Whipple and go underwater welding. Like, I don't think maybe eventually, but, like, dude, like, what we do is so simple. So, it's like we feel the need to make this more complicated because I think it makes us feel better about ourselves. Yeah. And, and what that does is it causes us to slow down and we spend more time thinking than working. And then we wonder why we're not growing. You don't grow by thinking in this business. It's all work. And, it comes back to what we just talked about. And I'll say this, this makes so much sense. I think most people are very self-aware about fitness, right? Like, most people, whether you work out or not, people understand, right? So it's like, if I wanted to be, and most people don't want to have any desire to be a bodybuilder, right? But, like, think about a bodybuilder, right? Think about somebody that's brand new that works out. Okay. If you look at, say, if you went up to, let's think of a guy, Jay Cutler, right, and got his workout routine, I guarantee you he still does bench press. I guarantee you he still does squats, right? Curls, right? It's the same workouts, but he looks like that, and I look like this.
Right.
What's the difference? One, it's time, and two, it's reps. That's all it is. And it's the same thing in this business. Like, you don't find him going out and trying some fancy workout. He's not doing some crazy routine, right? There's nothing different. And you know, to answer your question, I don't know why people overthink it. Like, I think that they just feel the need that it can't be this simple. You know, and it's just doing the basics. And guess what? You know, back to the workout, right? You get stronger.
Yep.
You add more weight. People are afraid to add weight. And I think that's what it comes down to. We're afraid to add weight. We're afraid to get stronger in the business. You know, you do 10 reps, it gets easy, right? 10 reps at, 50 pounds of dumbbell on each side, and eventually it gets easy. Why? Because you get good, right?
Yeah.
But if the only way to get stronger, I don't know if most of you guys know this if you don't work out, but the only way to get stronger is to add weight. That's the only way. Yeah. The same thing in this business. You have to add weight consistently. You get stronger, and, I think overthinking is just, it's there's no need for it in this business. It's already been thought out.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think, I think of Jake Cutler, it's like doing it more. He has a schedule, and he's created great habits. So, again, each one of these, going back to the habit thing we were just talking about, that we have to create good habits and continue to do that, and we just get better and better and better, I believe. And there were some other thoughts I had, but anyway, that was what came out. But, hey, the other thing is, I want to talk about this real quick, and then we're going to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. But the business opportunity meetings we're doing, you mentioned the Zoom. And when I know about these meetings and from doing them from here, wherever, the thing, it's so important if you're in an area and you're doing a business opportunity meeting, right, for everyone to show up to those meetings. It's that special. And what I mean by that is if Mike is here and I'm inviting someone and Mike he came from refrigerator sales, and I meet a guy who's doing that, and I tell him all about Mike Curry, and then I come to the meeting, and I'm not beating him up because he's here, but I'm just saying this is the importance of you showing up at a meeting and how other people need you. When you have that, and Mike's not here, it doesn't. That's why it's so important for everyone to show up for those meetings. Right. Everyone to drive people to those meetings. If we want to grow this business the way we know we can grow it, introduce it to warm market, introduce the people that we meet, that's how we're going to do it, like Sean said. So that was important, just like when you said for the Zoom. Would you agree?
100%, yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say that because I just think that's some people don't really think that way, but that's so true. It's one thing to talk about the speaker, but they may not even relate to the speaker, but they'll relate to a 20-year-old. I mean, if I was going to bring Joan in there, I would say, hey, you need to meet Jason Whipple, right? Mm-hmm. Joseph. I always messed up. Or you want to meet Melvin Tejada. Why? They're his age. He can relate to them. He may not relate to me and you. Right. I'm old enough to be his dad. I mean, I'm just saying, right? So
100%.
Anyway, any last comments you want to say real quick before we kind of, from a leadership standpoint, anything you want to share?
Yeah, again, I think it's just lead from the front, Sean had an interesting statistic the other day, and this, people that build the business, right? And it's like, unless you can't sell, unless you can't serve families, like, I don't know why you wouldn't be out there leading from the front. I will say this. This is something that stuck to me. I was talking to Hayden a couple months back, and he was telling me, when you get to the certain level, EVP, I think it is, a lot of times it's easy to want to pull back, right, on your selling, right? Why? Because business is good, right? And he said that at that point, that's when you want to kick it into high gear, right? Why? Because for one, if you're at that point, you have quite a few leaders developed, right? Most of them are now managing their own team, right? If you pull back, like we should, right? Like I'm trying to do. And now you have even more time on your hands to go sell. So it's like it's almost easier to sell at that point. It's almost like being brand new again, except now you have the skill level, right? And so I think that's the last thing, obviously being that this is a leadership call. Like if you're at that point, you have, right, while also helping your leaders. So that's something he spoke to me. Maybe it'll speak to someone else, but that's something I'm planning when I get there. I can't wait. It's really exciting. So I'll kind of finish it up there.
Yeah, that's great. And just so you know, I was telling Mike this, he's going to be huge in this business. Let's just be clear. your leader, I mean, I'm just saying the person, that Jamie's on the West Coast. I know he's moving out this way, but you basically, built this, which is, say, 300 families a month. Is that right? Yeah.
Close
300
to
family a month or so here in Charlotte by himself, meaning most of it's his warm market, and then they recruited some people and whatever. So my point is, he's created that type of business from someone who didn't know anything about this business by just plugging in, listening to Jamie, listening to Grady, watching, learning, watching podcasts, us spending time together, the team here and whatever. The reason I want to make that point is his leadership was already there when he got here. He knew, with the simplicity of it, hey, like he probably got up, I don't know his other job, but he probably led there too. Like he was on the job sooner, worked later, probably did more sales, probably did more service work. I don't know. My guess is that's true. So you can bring those skills here and just lead from the front by just your actions is the point. That's where leadership is. It's truly being in front of people every single day, showing them, hey, this is the way we do it, by working hard, showing them that it works, and that's it, and not overthinking it. I love that part. So thanks for being on. I hope this makes a difference. Again, we just, hope, again, if it affects one person, that's what matters to me. So hopefully it helps you guys and makes a difference. And at the end of the day, we just want to help people grow. So thanks for being on, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.